All right, welcome in. It is episode 102 here of the Three Guys Talking Ball podcast. Ethan's going to be joining us hopefully shortly. He had something come up, but he should be here. I better. Oh, there it is. There's the light. Forgot to turn that on before we started recording, but now it's I'm not going to compare myself to Jesus. I can't go that far. But we have a loaded show today as we have entered into November. We're recording this on Wednesday, November 1st. It is currently the bottom of the fifth. The Rangers and Diamondbacks are deadlocked at 0-0. We might have a World Series champion when everybody hears this tomorrow. We might not. We will see here. It's pitcher's duel right now, and looks like the Rangers were able to get out of a jam. They had runners on second and third and get out of it in the end of fifth as the Rangers come up to bat to start the sixth. But as baseball comes to an end, college football, NFL football starts heating up. We've got our surprise, disappointing, told you so team recap of the NFL in week 8. And then we have our team of the week for college football of week 9. And then we're going to look ahead a little bit, look to week 10 in college football and week 9 in the NFL. And in North Dakota, South Dakota, we have a border battle. North Dakota State takes on South Dakota State in Brookings on Saturday. But there are some other big games going on in the state of North Dakota as the state semifinal weekend. The Trinity Titans are get to go up to Velva and face the defending state champions on Saturday. So at the same time, about NDSU and South Dakota State are tipping off. But so I won't even be able to really watch that game, but we'll be giving a preview here and hopefully be able to watch the end after what hopefully is a celebratory bus ride home for the Titans. But Grant, I teased this earlier. I had quite the story that happened to me this morning at Walmart.
Yes.
And I like, you cannot make this up. So
Okay.
I'm going to the bathroom, and you know how most urinals, they are one's a little bit taller than the other one.
Yep.
So the guy I'm kind of somewhat half asleep. I hadn't had enough coffee yet. Looking at my phone, checking if my boss is listening. I'm checking work emails, and
that's what we're calling it these days.
Yeah, and I'm going, and this old guy, I don't know how old he was, older than me, probably somewhere around my dad's age, which is 60. It's hard to tell these days because there's a lot of people that look a lot older than they are and a lot younger than they are.
Just to be safe, say a man 55 to 65?
Probably, yeah, somewhere in there. And he comes over and he's like, oh, and he's got to use the small urinal and goes, oh, man, most people got to get on their knees to use this one, but I got a big dick, so I don't have to. And
it's absolutely incredible.
I'm going. It just stopped me. I was like, I don't. What am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to ask? Let me see it. You know, like what do I like? What like I was not many times it happens. I was at a loss for words. I didn't know what to say.
Well, dude, to your point, at that point, you just sit back and say, hey, can I admire this thing? I mean, if it's as big as you make it out to be, I want to be impressed here.
Yeah, exactly. I guess next time if I'm put in that situation, I'm just going to ask straight up, like, well, let's see what God gave you. Let's see if you have a baby arm or a third leg. I don't know.
Oh, man. Maybe hopefully that dude's name was Greg. So just like Greg Olson, he could be Greg with a third leg.
He could be. Old Greg.
Yeah, not Fox Sports on Sunday, Greg. Old Greg.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's incredible. I mean, what time was this? Was it 6:30, 7:30?
It would have been about like 7:30 in the morning or so. So.
Oh man, that's a way to start the day, like you said. I mean, I'd be on pins and needles the rest of the day. Like, what's And that would be so buried in the back of my mind. The next time I go to take a piss at Walmart, I'd be like, is some dude going to mention about his dick size next to me?
That could probably go into one of those. I don't remember who did it, but back in the day, they would do they'd do the people of Walmart. I gotta find who did that, and I gotta write and send him that story.
That was so good. And I remember you always had a joke about that the shorter urinal too. I can't remember what you always said, but like,
yeah, that one we cannot. I know which joke you're talking about.
Yeah.
We'll share. Well, I'll remind you of it when we're done recording here. We don't need another reason to be canceled. So, I've spent. I have the Swifties angry at me. I have the Mahomes army after me. Been very active about the Michigan sign stealing witch hunt that has been going on. So I've got all the anti-Michigan people after me. I might be the most hated man on the internet in North Dakota right now. Could be a thought.
That's something to not take for granted. I mean, if you can be the most hated man on the internet for any state, that means you're doing something right because you're pissing people off. And the point of the internet is to piss people off.
Well, some like with the Swifties, for example, it's so easy. So the stadiums that Taylor Swift plays at, there's that huge like where the way the stadiums are set up in the end zone, and then there's just a big empty space behind her, or blank space behind her. There, I got my Taylor Swift reference in for the episode.
Nice work.
And so, naturally, me being the smart aleck that I am, comment, wow, Taylor Swift can't even sell out arenas like Travis can, and people want to keep telling me that Taylor's the one carrying Travis in this relationship? I don't think so. And like, oh, well, she has it because nobody could see her from back there. I was like, it just sounds like an excuse to me. She's clearly not as good as you guys say she is. And they just keep going, and it's like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to keep saying more outlandish things until you figure out that I'm not a serious person. And
you're going to be saying
they get their blood pressure so riled up. Like, I think I should be getting some royalty checks as blood pressure medication in females goes up.
Well, and I was going to say, you're going to be fighting that battle a long time, because that army that she has, they are so out of touch with reality. I mean, she could kill a man and they would justify her saying that it was okay.
She's the white O.J. Simpson.
She is like O.J. Simpson. She has a bigger cult than anything Texas A&M has, and that university is a
big cult.
It's
a cult. Man, that's not good if you're getting compared to Texas A&M. But and since I guess that's somewhat of a good transition here, because as I was making notes for the show yesterday, we have a loaded college football slate on Saturday and another very good Sunday. Just to go over, and with it being November, this is Separation Saturday starts for the next 3 weeks, because everyone's fighting for positioning, trying to clinch a spot or play for a spot in their conference title game, just to name a few. Off the bat, Georgia, Mizzou. Missouri's only lost the one game to LSU, a game they were leading for most of the way and controlled most of it, and ended up falling apart. That game is in Athens, and Georgia last week decided, you know what, we've had enough of, we can't win without Brock Bowers. And I think people just need to stop saying Georgia can't win, because every time that comes up, that Georgia's, I don't know, there's kind of some chinks in the armor, and then all of a sudden they go out and they win 52-3. So that one, Washington USC play, which bold statement here, and as we get into our previews, we'll talk about it. I wouldn't be shocked if USC doesn't win another game the rest of the year.
I agree.
Alabama, LSU, Kansas State, Texas. That was who I had in my Big 12 championship game predictions.
Mm-hmm.
The Big Ten West leading Minnesota Golden Gophers take on Illinois.
Well,
You know,
Oklahoma,
there
and Oklahoma
lots.
State. Oklahoma State played the last game of Bedlam in the Bedlam series.
The last bet, which is a shame that game is not played at night.
It's really a crime. I mean, that and LSU Alabama are meant to be played when it's dark out. Like,
yes,
there was a feel.
That's why they call it Bedlam. Because you're going to be going to bed after the game.
Yeah, there was just a feel in that stadium in Memorial Stadium. There was an energy, there was a buzz that you don't get when it kicks off at 2:30.
Yep. And you've been to it, so we'll have to listen to you tell more about it as we get into the preview. Iowa had another week where they were not able to find their way to the end zone, but there might be some light at the end of the tunnel as it was announced that Brian Ferentz will not be returning as offensive coordinator next year. Will that prompt Grant to come back as the prodigal son and start calling them Iowa again? Grant?
No. There's still work to be done on the field.
Okay.
There's still work to be done on the field, and he is still under contract for 4 games, possibly 5 if they get invited to a bowl game. And at 6-1 with the national brand that team is, they probably will. So there's still work to be done. It's not over. But if they want to get the respect that they think I should give them by saying their university's name, let's score some touchdowns and look capable on offense. So right now, no. But Saturday at Wrigley Field, things could change. So stay tuned.
Which team are you talking about?
The team with 4 letters.
4 letters.
Yeah, it's the state just south of Minnesota.
Okay. I'm trying to think of other states that have 4 letters, and I can't. Dang it, I wish I was smart.
There's Ohio.
Ohio, yeah. But it's not them?
It's not them, no.
No. What capital is Des Moines? Which capital is that the state of?
Oh, the state that produces the most hogs in the country.
Arkansas? No. Arkansas is Little Rock. So, I don't know.
It's called the Hog State. But
I'm going to get you at some point. You just wait.
Stay tuned, folks.
Yep. And let's get into it. Since we've had enough of the small talk, heard my urinal story. We almost got Grant to say Iowa. We've talked some Bedlam. Kind of gave a preview of what is to come in this week's college football. Let's go back a week to week 8 in the NFL. We're going to go surprise, disappointing, told you so teams. And in typical fashion, since Ethan is not with us right now, we're going to go another week of him not getting the first pick.
What a surprise.
Here, so let's see here. We got the Chiefs, Cowboys, and with the first pick of the episode 102 draft, it is Grant.
Hey, Grant again.
Grant. That makes me 2. So, Grant, who is your surprise team in week 8 in the NFL?
Oh, surprise team. We're taking a turn. My surprise team is a team Dylan had as a wild card team. I was not confident in them, and I'm going with we're going to back again to just one side of the ball, not necessarily a team, but the Tennessee Titans offense from this past Sunday. Will Levis gets his first start, and I'm not going to lie, I was kind of a little worried for the Titans on there. I think for my ESPN pick'em, I had the Falcons. I can't remember if it was -3.5 Atlanta or +3.5, but I felt confident the Falcons would win that game because when Ryan Tannehill was at quarterback this year for the Titans, their offense didn't have a pulse. And with Will Levis getting his first start, why would anything change? Well, I was wrong. And Tennessee, they were able to finally take the top off the defense and get some explosive passing plays going here, on Sunday. And Will Levis, he looked like the quarterback after his junior year at Kentucky. the kid who doesn't put mayonnaise in his coffee, but has an absolute rocket, who has an absolute rocket of an arm. 19 to 29 for 238 yards and 4 tutties. And most importantly, no interceptions, on Sunday. And then also, since they're able to get that passing game going, DeAndre Hopkins found the end zone 3 times. They're able to get Derrick Henry going. And I don't have the exact stats, but he rushed for 101 yards on Sunday. Anytime Derrick Henry rushes for over 100 yards, Tennessee's got a damn good shot at winning that football game. And who knows? Maybe it was just those big, beautiful powder blue uniforms that the Titans were wearing on Sunday. Maybe that just and we're seeing a trend this year. You wear alternate throwback uniforms, you're usually going to play a damn good game. So maybe the uniform gods had something to do with that. Look good, play good. But the Titans offense, they looked crisp, and who knows? Maybe after one game they found their quarterback of the future. And maybe Will Levis's ex-girlfriend Gia was holding them back. Maybe now that he's a single man, he can focus on football. He doesn't worry about his TikTok star girlfriend taking all the clout from him. Maybe he just had a heavy chain released from his body, and now he's all go, and he's gonna find some beautiful woman down there on Broadway. And if he does,
he should leave the Broadway girls alone, though.
He should. But no one. He's an athlete. Being 6'4", just a big, strong dude, he's probably not. God bless him. Someone's got to pick up those Broadway girls, and it's not going to be either of us, Dylan.
No, probably not.
So good for Will Levis and good for this Tennessee Titans offense. That's my surprise team for this last week.
Okay, well, yeah, and they found a passing attack. That's why they went out and signed DeAndre Hopkins. I thought Ryan Tannehill had a little bit more in the tank. I was wrong. And, just stretch the field. And we're going to see more if he can continue to reel those streaks together. They got Pittsburgh coming up, who is going to be without Kenny Pickett tonight, as this once this episode is recorded. But I think that's a winnable game. And as Jacksonville has started to kind of pull away from this division, there is still a lot to play for. And with Mike Vrabel on your sideline, Derrick Henry in a Oilers-Titans uniform,
oh gosh,
you can never count them out.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what was a crazy? I saw a lot about the Oilers uniforms, how they shouldn't be wearing them, but I don't think people understand that the Titans were the Oilers before they moved, and for a year they were the Tennessee Oilers. But the funniest part about that is they were headquartered. Jeff Fisher told a story about this, is how they were headquartered in Nashville, so they would practice in Nashville all week, but they didn't have a stadium there yet. So they would have to go to Memphis, which is a 4 or 5 hour drive, probably somewhere in there.
I think it's closer to like 2.5, because Nashville is kind of more north central Tennessee, and Memphis is on the western edge. If they had to go from like Knoxville to Memphis, that would be a hell of a bus ride.
Okay, maybe it was then. But Jeff, but they would leave, and he would talk about how like they would get home before their wives, significant other woods, and have supper ready for them by the time they got back from Memphis over to Nashville.
Oh, no kidding.
Uh-huh. Because I believe they played at the Liberty Bowl in Memphis that first year, while the Nissan Stadium, whatever it was called, I think it was like LP Field for a while, something like that.
LP Field for a long time, yeah.
Yep, and that's where they would play. I thought that story was pretty interesting. But my surprise team of the week is I'm going to go with a team that I've been very critical. This podcast as a whole has been critical of. We've been critical of the head coach. We've been critical of the quarterback, and critical of the defense, which kept them in a lot of games last year. And Russell Wilson couldn't get them over the hump. But I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos. Big win over the Kansas City Chiefs. That the buck stops at 17. They're not going to get any more wins against the Chiefs. At least that was where they put their foot down and said, no, 17 times is enough. We're done. We're not losing to you guys an 18th time. Defense forcing 5 turnovers. and showed up, kept them out of the end zone. Offensively, Denver didn't have to do a whole lot. It wasn't anything Denver did like that wowed you in this game. They just kind of took what they gave them and gave them some. The defense gave them some short fields, able to and just move the ball. Got a couple of field goals. They didn't, and Denver had a blocked field goal. I believe they had an interception or two. But the Chiefs had 5 turnovers. They didn't play well on special teams. That's been an area of concern for them because it seems like the last couple of weeks we've seen a handful of muff punts from them in the last 2 games, and that's got to be something they got to clear up because the defense, as good as they are, they're going to break when they're having to be on the field. The Chiefs, I think they are missing another receiver, but Denver, tip your cap to them. And you know what? They're still somewhat in the hunt after Josh McDaniels has been fired. The Chargers are going to Charger. Uh-huh. And after that, Sean Payton at the end of the day is still the second best coach in the division. And I trust Sean Payton a lot more than I trust Brandon Staley and Antonio Pierce and Aiden O'Connell. So, Broncos are still in the playoff hunt. You can't done chain them yet, but I will not. They won't be done chained this week because they're my surprise team, and hopefully the Chiefs can shake it off.
Very, very well said there, Taylor. And to your point.
Thank you.
Across an international flight to Germany, this next week to play the fast-paced Miami Dolphins in a Tyreek Hill revenge game. I may add, with that, not to look ahead to that game, but if the Chiefs want to win, that front 4 on defense is going to have to dominate, and they're going to have to get back to running the ball. All the times I was critical of them last year for trying to get too cute while they're trying to figure out these receivers, let this interior 3 on this offensive line, let the 2 tackles, Donovan Smith and Juwan Taylor, let them go forward, let them maul people and get Pacheco going, get this play-action game going, and, try to earn out a win before this bye week. But, hey, Andy and this team, they got to figure it out, and, I'm confident they will. So, hey, it's the National Football League. Everybody has bad weeks, and, sometimes you lay an egg. And, Sunday they laid an egg, but, like I said, 17 straight wins against a divisional opponent ain't too bad. Especially when the last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs, Barack Obama was in office, and he still had a full year before the presidential election in 2016.
And we were all living together the last time it happened. It was one of the times I've seen Grant. I've never seen somebody more defeated in a depressed slouch state than that game after Jamal Charles fumbled and Denver runs it in.
I put all my eggs in that basket. And in that game, thinking that that was the year they were going to take over Denver and win that division. And you know what? They were up 24-17 in the fourth quarter, and that star-studded defense needed to get one stop, and they couldn't get to Manning. And then instead of taking the knee and going to overtime, the Chiefs thought, hey, maybe we can get 10, 15 quick yards on a Jamal Charles draw play, and he puts the ball on the ground, and Denver scores, and it's like, that's the game.
That's the game.
That's the game.
And let's go down to a disappointing team. And I will, since I gave put Denver as my surprise team, I will not put the Chiefs as my disappointing team. But I'm going to go with a team that played the Vikings, and I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers.
There you go.
Fun fact about the Packer this year's about some Milwaukee teams is the Bucs season started last week. And they actually have had more wins in October than the Packers did. The Brewers, who got swept in the wild card round. Oh, and Texas has just taken the lead on a Mitch Garver single here. Evan Carter's on third, and Corey Seager scored. Corey Seager will get his second World Series MVP if the score holds. But back to the Packers, the Brewers won more games in October than the Packers did. Jordan Love is not the answer. He has some nice weapons. I think this is also coaching. This is the team management. And we don't even have to go into the defense. Joe Barry just says, here, just we'll just give you the first down. We'll just restart. He's the just give you the third down king. And I think Matt LaFleur just forgets that he has Aaron Jones and I'm going to let my rookie quarterback and just let him throw it around. And I'm not going to make his life easier. I'm just going to and just forget about my tremendous running back that I have.
This is something with Green Bay we all knew for the last 5 years. It was the Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams show. He was covering up all the ugliness that was Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur has never been a head coach, and he never will be a head coach. He was just some young guy who worked with McVay and Shanahan. I was combining them together as one person. And Green Bay said, hey, we still need an offensive mind. We need some young guy who can relate to Aaron because McCarthy wasn't the answer. So let's get this dude, even though he has no business being a head coach. And now it's showing. Their GM doesn't deserve to have a job. And, Dylan, I think both of you and I saw this coming this year, with Green Bay. It was, after 30 great years, they deserve to have one bad season. And it's here.
And two Hall of Fame quarterbacks as well.
To only win 2 Super Bowls is an absolute failure as an organizational level.
And only get to 3.
Mm-hmm. Only get to 3. Just embarrassing. But, my disappointing team is kind of a team I've been high on this year. They were coming off their bye. They were 3-3. They were going into the worst team in the NFL record-wise. And they let them get their first win of the year, that being the Houston Texans. Big win against Pittsburgh.
I actually had the Panthers as one of my surprise teams.
Okay.
Just based off, picking them because you know what? Good for Bryce Young. Good for Frank Reich. We've criticized them a handful of times on here. I believe not too long ago they were my told you so team because I didn't trust Frank Reich. But Bryce Young proved why he was the number 1 pick in the draft on that game-winning drive. He was poised and in control all game. And then when crunch time and winning time came around, he was there and delivered.
And I think also Bryce showed that I think he's going to be a good pro. He just needs an offensive line in front of him, and he needs a better receivers on the outside, not named Adam Thielen. Because all in all, like I said, the Texans are coming off their bye. They're 3-3. CJ Stroud is looking like an absolute stud. He didn't play bad on Sunday, but he's only 16-24 for 140 yards. That's not going to cut it in the National Football League. I understand he didn't have any interceptions, no turnovers, no fumbles, but he also didn't throw any touchdowns. That game manager style, it's not going to cut it. And, people are like, oh, they had 110 yards on the ground on 30 attempts. Barely over 3 yards an attempt. That's not going to do it. And like I mentioned, Adam Thielen, he's the only weapon for Carolina. You let him go for 8 receptions for 72 yards. And I know you get to Bryce Young 6 times, but still, of those 6 sacks, you don't put the ball on the ground once. You don't cause a fumble. You don't get an interception. I almost kind of felt like Houston, they showed their youth in this game. And I think they're going to do that the rest of this year. They're going to have 1 week where they're really good and 1 week where they're really bad. And you're like, yeah, they're still young. But, coming off a bye, I really thought they were going to be focused and get to 4-3. But they didn't. There's going to be no Ofer team in the NFL this year. But, yeah, the Houston Texans are my disappointing team.
Yeah, and, I think also, too, with that is a rookie head coach coming off a bye. You're not really sure. You've done it as a coordinator. Maybe you have all that time to sit there and you think and you over prepare. That you see that a lot with coaches. You see that
Sean McVay
where it's football. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Where these football guys that's all they do is live and breathe football is they lock themselves in their office and think of ways like they outsmart themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And with being a young coach, that's something you take. You admit, yep, I screwed up, guys. This wasn't a good coaching effort. This one is on us. We're gonna change. We're gonna do some different things here. We're not going to try to change some things up here where it's not, where maybe we're going to do simplify some things, make it easier, so you guys aren't out there thinking as much.
Mm-hmm. And, another thing I had in my notes, like we said, we knew Carolina only had Adam Thielen as a weapon. If that's the case, you should be double teaming that guy off the bus. Like, as soon as he got out of his nice car in the parking lot, boom, there's 2 dudes on him. He gets a drink before the game. There's 2 dudes on him. Dylan talked about his urinal story. Adam Thielen's got to pee before the game. There's 2 dudes surrounding him right there. He should.
Do you think he's going on a trough?
Adam Thielen is definitely going on a trough. If he's from Detroit Lakes, he's troughing it up.
Absolutely.
He went to the old Metrodome as a kid. He's a big trough guy, and he went to school in Mankato. Come on now.
Yeah. This is a pro trough podcast. So if there's any guests on here that is says their future potential guest says that, well, yeah, I'm not a trough guy. You're okay. You're not coming on. That was, those were such a staple and such a part of people's lives that when the Metrodome was tore down, you could buy troughs from the Metrodome. And also a reason why I will not completely dump on crap on the Cubs all the time either, because Wrigley Field still has troughs.
Okay.
And Grant, you could have went down and used them when Northwestern. Who does Northwestern play?
That team with 4 letters. Who's the 2-time Big Ten West champion and is 0-for against the state of Michigan in Big Ten title games.
Okay, well, shoot, I'm gonna keep going, but
it's actually my turn.
But oh yeah. Well, I'll do the little run through here, but yeah, go down to told you so team of the week, Grant. Who do you have telling us where you were saying, yep, I was right?
That would be the team that my preseason MVP played for in the Cincinnati Bengals. That team on Sunday looked sharp. That looked like the team from last December who was humming. They went into Arrowhead confident that they could get back to their second Super Bowl in as many years. The team was beating the Chiefs 3 of their last 4 times. And Joe Burrow, just like that, he looked like that cold-blooded killer that we're used to seeing with him. It looked like that calf was healed up. He felt mobile, and they were just humming. I mean, on Sunday, Joe Burrow, 28 of 32 for 283 yards and 3 touchdowns against San Francisco in that building. I thought San Francisco's defense was going to put up a big fight after the last 2 road losses. You get back home in front of them crazy Niners fans. You got your bye coming up in a couple weeks, and Joe Burrow went in and he was cool as a cucumber. And, sure, he was sacked 3 times. You play the Niners, guess what? You're going to give up 3 to 4 sacks. It is what it is, but it didn't affect him. And then as a team, 27 rushing attempts for 134 yards. But I think more importantly, they got Joe Mixon going. 16 carries, 87 yards, and a touchdown. This Bengals team, they look primed. They look ready to hunt for the rest of the year. And, the most underrated aspect of that team is their defense. Lou Amarillo, it's just he has them humming. He has them playing fundamentally sound. They attack the quarterback. 2 sacks, 3 turnovers on Sunday. That huge interception by, was it Pratt? When the Niners were in the end zone looking to tie the game. Cincinnati, they looked like the kings of the AFC North on Sunday. And speaking of that division is going to be fun to watch the rest of the year. Baltimore's humming. Cleveland's got a good defense. Will their quarterback ever want to figure it out? Pittsburgh's offense is struggling, and they look like that 4-letter team in college, but that defense is going to keep them in games. Man, the AFC North is going to be fun, and at least for this last week, Cincinnati had me saying, I told y'all, folks, this team's for real.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned it, Joe Mixon. I think he ran for what, you said 87 yards. 87. And I actually had them as my surprise team because of that. They actually had some balance on offense. And when Joe Burrow got out of those 2 sacks, it was like, oh, the old Burrow is back.
Looks like 21 Arrowhead Joe Burrow.
And credit to Zach Taylor. And we're a very bipolar Zach Taylor podcast where we love him one week and then we dump on him the next week. There's no in between. But, for him sitting down and realizing, hey, we don't have to put all this pressure on Joe Burrow. We have a good running game. We have on paper, we have good names on the offensive line. Let's go. Let's get them running downhill. Let's take some pressure off where they don't have to be in pass pro all the time and keep them off balance and not so one-dimensional. So if we had to give I don't know what would be a good award for coach of the week if we were to have one, but it would have to be with Zach Taylor.
Yeah. I mean, I think this week it's hard to argue that. I mean, I'm trying to think of any other coach. Maybe you mentioned Sean Payton in Denver, but it was more or less just the self-inflicted wounds that Kansas City did to themselves, that day. The Eagles weren't. You could give it, if there was a award for one quarter, you could give it to Kevin O'Connell for keeping the Vikings balanced in the fourth after the Kirk injury.
Okay. Can we can talk about this? Did you find yourself yelling at the TV a few times watching that game because of the amount of times you were having Jaron Hall drop back and throw the ball while they were up 2 possessions?
Honestly, dude, I think just KOC was trying to give his young quarterback some confidence, knowing that, and also he knew how inept that Green Bay offense was. So he's saying this. He's like, okay, you know what? Let's get him some confidence going here in the next week in Atlanta. Let's get him some drop backs against, a good defense there in Green Bay, see some live bullets. And we know, what? Hey, if something happens, this Green Bay offense is inept, and they're not going to score. So I think that was just KOC trying to just give his young quarterback a little confidence.
And he delivered. He delivered on some huge third downs. They didn't get the first down, but they were able to complete a pass that got them out of their own end zone where the punter didn't have to punt with his heels on the whites.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I don't know what this season's going to bring. We talked about it a little bit in the group chat. I liked them trading for Dobbs. The guy plays hard. He's a smart guy. And he's going to be playing with a better coach, a better offensive line, better weapons on the outside, TJ Hawkinson. And the offensive line and the running game has seemed to have somewhat of a pulse
coming around
with the addition of Cam Akers. So this season isn't completely lost. You wish all the best for Kirk Cousins because he was playing at an MVP level and just sucks that his season had to end this way. And hopefully that is not the last time he is in a we see him in a Vikings uniform, because I think there is a pretty good argument to be made that he might, well, especially of our generation, he's the greatest Vikings quarterback and might be the greatest Vikings quarterback ever. He's up there with Fran Tarkenton. Neither of them won a Super Bowl while playing for Minnesota, but I think you have to have him in the conversation, especially because of durability, longevity. That they haven't seen that since Fran Tarkenton was the quarterback, and that was when our parents were kids, younger than us right now at this point.
That was 50 years ago.
60
years ago. Yeah. That's crazy.
But my told you so team of the week here is going to be, we're going up to the Pacific Northwest. Now, I thought Seattle was going to jump out to a hot start. I like the way their schedule set up. I thought the 49ers were going to kind of come out with a little bit of a sluggish start, hangover from the NFC Championship game. There were questions about Brock Purdy with his health. And I had questions about Brock Purdy myself, which are still out there, and people are kind of coming to the light of, what's it like with his back against the wall when it becomes a drop back pass game, and he has not looked great in those moments. But Seattle, they've quietly just kind of kept winning games, playing really good, complementary, fundamentally sound football. They escaped the Browns, which is going to be a problem. They're going to ruin some teams' seasons or cost the team some playoff opportunities, even with or without Deshaun Watson. And frankly, money wise aside, you almost want to stick with PJ Walker because the offense looks a lot better than what it did under Deshaun Watson.
Well,
but
it looks like the offense Kevin Stefanski wants to run.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a quarterback is pissed off that he has to play under center and he wants to do a power running game. I think Kevin feels a little more free calling plays, knowing that he's got a quarterback on his side.
Yep, and they've just, like I said, they've quietly just held steady, and now look at them now. They are first in the NFC West.
That they are. I will still say this. I will die on this hill. They just traded for Leonard Williams. They gave up a second and a fifth round pick, and they got to take his contract on. Devin Witherspoon, he had that great Monday night game, and I know Pete Carroll loves to have a long, lengthy, fast secondary. They still could have had Jalen Carter. There are multiple teams who are going to regret passing on this dude. Where if they would have drafted him, they wouldn't have needed Leonard Williams, and they still could have had a second and a fifth next year. If I'm Pete Carroll, I trust my locker room. I trust the culture we've built in Seattle, where we're going to keep Jalen's head on straight. And hey, Witherspoon could be a Hall of Famer someday, and I could be eating crow. But I will say this till the day I die: them and the Detroit Lions could have had Jalen Carter, but they both passed. And the Chicago Bears, They could have.
And I think why Seattle made that trade also is because they have the cap space because they aren't paying a quarterback. Gino's not in that top tier of top paid quarterbacks, so they can go and say they can take on that contract and not really have to worry about it because I think they still got two or three more good years out of Gino, especially the way they play and the weapons around him, the running game.
Yeah.
In Seattle, it's just a really good. It's a great roster.
Yeah. Is it Schneider? John Schneider, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's done a hell of a job building this team twice. You could argue 2 or 3 times. The first Super Bowl, then the years after that, where they were a wild card to divisional round team, and then kind of a soft rebuild where they get rid of Russ, but they make the playoffs last year. And he does such a nice job getting players that Pete wants, players that fit the system that Pete and his coaches want to run, players that fit their organization, fit their culture. So hell of a job to John Schneider building this team. Shout out to him.
Yeah, and let's go down to the college ranks here. Recap week 9 in college football here. Our team of the week here, and I'm up. So I'm gonna go with the team I had in my game of the week. It's gonna be the Georgia Bulldogs. They shut me up. They silenced any questions any of us had. Carson Beck is a dark horse Heisman candidate right now. Just quietly put together. The offense, look what the questions of what the offense was going to look like without Brock Bowers. They just go out and they put up 43 points. Ladd McConkey, he finally looks healthy. Dominic Lovett is also kind of settled in as that other reliable pass catcher. And, with that defense, you just don't make mistakes. You don't put any pressure on them. You don't lose the game. Georgia's going to keep finding ways to pull it out. And, like I said earlier in the preamble talk, that this is a team that we just need to stop talking about the Georgia Bulldogs because at some point, going to catch them lacking. And I'm hoping, and yeah, I'm not going to get into that, but Georgia is my team of the week.
I know what you're saying. There. But my team of the week also was from my game of the week. And fun fact for you, their head coach has ties to the University of Georgia, being that he was the defensive coordinator for the 2021 national championship, and that would be the Oregon Ducks. They came out after a tough loss a couple weeks before to Washington. and their first road game after that, and they absolutely rolled over Utah. That game was over after the first 2 possessions. Oregon gets up 14-0, and you're like, yep, it's just their day. And on offense, Bo Nix was crisp. He was what I have my notes here. He was 24-31, 248, and 3 touchdowns. And then on the rushing side of the offensive attack, they ran 127 times for 142 yards and 3 touchdowns, 2 sacks on defense, 2 interceptions. But more importantly, they held Utah to 99 yards on the ground. Okay, yeah, that's almost 100 yards, but it was on 36 carries. 2.75 yards a play on the ground for Utah. When they can't run the ball this year, they're going to lose. They're going to lose a lot of games. In Oregon, they looked like they're still probably the best or the second best team in the Pac-12, and they're a college football playoff dark horse. Not a dark horse. They're still in it. They went out. They beat USC. They beat Oregon State. They beat Washington. They're in. They're in the dance, and they dominated last week. And to go into a tough place in Salt Lake City and do what they did, props to Oregon. So they're my team of the week.
Yeah, well, and they also broke a winning streak that went back to pre-COVID. They just said, we don't care about your win streak. We're just going to take it. We're going to end it. And I will go out and say that I think after the Oregon-Washington game, you look at what these two teams have done since then. I'm going to go out and say Oregon is the best team in the Pac-12 right now. I think they are the favorite. I think if there's a rematch, I think Oregon wins. And I'm going to go based off and especially in big games. I will always lean a team with the better defense. And I like Oregon's defense a lot more than I like Washington's defense, but Oregon, Georgia, Dan Lanning is building a Georgia out in the Pacific Northwest.
Strong dudes up front. A lot of defensive linemen from. Remember last year after Georgia and Oregon played Week 1, Kirby Smart went on the at his press conference and said, "Dan Lanning, thanks. You did a hell of a job recruiting this team and building this defense. You got your today by your players."
Yeah, they did, and I mean that could have been just a bad omen for him, but they just went to work and almost made it to the Pac-12 championship game, but they are sitting pretty to make it this year.
And I tell you what, man, there's a lot of teams in the Big Ten who are like, really, this team's coming into our conference right now, next year. There's only 2 teams who I feel are confident where they're like, Oregon, yeah, we can play with them. And that's Michigan and Ohio State. Every other team is like, you've got to be kidding me. Really? These guys? So the Big Ten ain't ready for what Oregon's about to bring next year.
No. And let's go down to let's go back. That is ends the recap portion of the show here. Let's jump into the preview edition of the podcast here. We're going to go back up to the NFL. NFL Week 9, game of the week here. So, Grant, you're up. Who is in your Week 9 game of the week?
Oh, dude, there's so many to pick from, and I had 3 in my notes. Thinking that there's a chance that you guys steal this, but steal with one of these other 2 that I had. But you know what? I'm going with the game. It's Sunday night. Both teams aren't in first place in their division. They need a big win against a conference opponent. I'm going Cincinnati and Buffalo. Rematch from last year's playoff game. This game will be in Cincinnati on Sunday night. Like I said, the Dolphins are leading the AFC East. Baltimore's atop the AFC North. These 2 teams, not only do they need a win to stay within their division race, but potential seeding implications down the road if they were to have to meet again in January, or who knows, depending on how tough the AFC is. One team making the playoffs, one team not making the playoffs. And, these teams, they've seen each other a lot. Well, I guess just 2 times last year, so that they know each other.
Well, not really twice, because this is also the the game Damar Hamlin collapsed. So there's also some added buzz around that game because of what happened.
In that same stadium where Damar suffered that cardiac arrest, but being that they prepared for each other 2 times within, I think, a 4-week span last year, you get a feel that this is going to be a budding rivalry here in the future. 2 young quarterbacks, and not Mahomes, and Burrow and Allen. This is what Sunday night in November is all about. It's football in the state of Ohio against Buffalo. It's the Bengals. At Sunday night when they play, either the Chiefs or the Dolphins are going to be 7-2, and you got to keep pace with those teams. The Dolphins and Bills still got to play twice this year. The Chiefs still have to play both the Bengals and the Bills. So I'm just excited for this game because the real football starts and Sunday night. What better way to end a weekend than these 2 teams playing on Sunday night?
Absolutely. I like the fact that you said it was a budding rivalry. The Bengals offensive line is going to see another tough test with the Bills pass rush.
Yeah.
After that, there isn't a whole lot on that Bills defense. There's not a whole lot left because of injuries, unfortunately, but they did trade for Rasul Douglas and see if he's able to help on that back end. But this was also a game that I had in my notes, Grant, as a game of the week. But I think we all know where I'm going with my game of the week, and it's a battle for first place in the NFC East.
Oh yeah,
not really, because the Eagles haven't had a bye. Dallas has, but with a win, Dallas can pull to even and be in the driver's seat. I would say that say this would put the winner in the driver's seat. They would both have 2 losses and still have to play out. But if Dallas is able to go into Philly and get a win, they have to be the favorite at that point to win the East. And, keys to the game here for Dallas especially is they cannot be conservative. It seems like all the times in these big games, you go back to the last 2 San Francisco games where Mike McCarthy just plays not to lose. They play too conservative, and they end up having to settle for field goals instead of touchdowns. And they forget that CeeDee Lamb is not on the roster, but that was also what I had is find CD, find him early and often, keep him engaged in the game. They got to be able to use the pass to open up the run, because I think there are some holes on this Philly defense. The back end is not what it used to be. And I think there's going to be some big plays available there. Michael Gallup, I would like to see get utilized and, build off of what they did against the Rams last week, where they were aggressive. They were cautiously aggressive in the red zone, where they were able to come away to get points. Jake Ferguson has developed into a really nice tight end. Makes wonders when he actually has a quarterback who can get him the ball, unlike when he was in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
But, I want to see Mike McCarthy open up the playbook a little bit more on offense, because they can't settle for field goals, because on the opposite side, they've got that offensive line is one of the best offensive line. They've got tremendous weapons on the back end, and A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. There's really no holes there, but Jalen Hurts is dinged up. And Dallas has a tremendous pass rush. They need to get after him. They need to hit him on every single play. Find a way to hit him, make his life miserable, and see how much he can run. Because watching him against Washington and then against Miami the week before, he's clearly not himself. He's clearly not 100%. And if you're able to hit him early, hit him often, I think he's going to be a little bit timid. He's going to try to rush some things and give Dallas some opportunities there to force some turnovers.
One thing I'd like to see if I'm a Dallas fan in this game, Dylan, is this. I want to see Dan Quinn design some pressure schemes where it's more 5 men front. I'm not saying you have to bring 5 men, but put someone over Jason Kelce, so you at least have an advantage where, if, let's say, I put Micah Parsons rushing against Philadelphia's right guard. Tim Jurgens is hurt. Cam Jurgens, he's hurt. I don't know if he's going to play or if he's been back. But
Lane Johnson still has a high ankle sprain.
has a high ankle sprain. Give me a one-on-one matchup right away. I want to put Micah inside. Rush against that right guard. You bring your other linebacker down. Put him in front of Kelsey. So for that quick second off the snap, he can't go over and double team someone right away. Because with Jalen, even if he rushes back in coverage for that split second, Jason's got to worry. Hey, there's a guy in front of me. He might come. So then you know what? You can get a good rush inside. And with Jalen being an athlete, put the pressure in his face. Don't run by him, but keep that pressure in his face to slow him down. So if I'm a Dallas fan, I want to see Dan Quinn do a little more exotic things to try to get this pressure to Jalen, because he's also shown this year he'll throw you some interceptions.
Yep.
Unlike last year. So I'm with you. I'm excited for this game. We got a hell of a window on Sunday. Chiefs and Dolphins in the morning. The Vikings play the Falcons at noon. Take a nap during that game. Cowboys, Eagles, and then you get a quick dinner. Cincinnati, Buffalo.
Nice. That's nice.
I got you.
Okay. Oh, no, we're back. Okay, now it says it. What in the world? Okay, so we're back.
Yep.
Except, well, it says I'm connected, but now I can't connect my mic back, so.
Well, son of a gun.
I can mute while recording, but I can't switch mics. All right, sweet. So.
Fun.
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
All right. Well, so my college football game of the week here is I'm going to go down to the SEC, Alabama LSU, because this game is always a classic.
Oh God, yeah.
This is the SEC West Championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Both teams, LSU coming in with two losses already. I still think there is potentially a path for them to make the college football playoff. It's a tall task. They're going to have to win out, but there is a way I think they could sneak in. Alabama, with the only one loss to Texas, they're still in the driver's seat, still lead the West, but whoever wins this is going to Atlanta to face the Bulldogs. This game, I think, is going to come down to quarterback play. Jalen Milroe versus Jaden Daniels. Who makes the big play? Who can avoid the big turnover? Both of them are home run, strikeout type of quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, and Alabama actually impressed me a heck of a lot when they beat Tennessee last week, 2 weeks ago, when they were down 20-7, and they come back and score 27 unanswered points to win 34-20. That answered a lot of questions. The receivers seem to be coming along. The running game seems to be coming along. And as long as Jalen Milroe can avoid that turnover, I like Alabama just because they're at home. And I also, at the end of the day, and like I said with the Oregon-Washington games, if there was a rematch, I think I trust Alabama's defense more than I trust LSU's defense.
Mm-hmm. And I think Jaden Daniels, is good for an interception or two, and this Alabama defense will capitalize off that. I kind of talked about this game earlier today, but I'm gonna go with Bedlam again because both teams. It's the last Bedlam game. The game is in Stillwater. We all know how Mike Gundy feels about the University of Oklahoma right now. It's pure hatred. He can't stand those assholes there in Norman. And after last year's absolute shellacking that the Sooners gave, I think the Cowboys are going to be ready to play. Boone Pickens Stadium is going to be absolutely electric. There's going to be so much, hostility in the air. But what's interesting is both teams are 4-1 in the Big 12 play. They play each other on Saturday. Winner goes to 5-1. Oklahoma has already played Texas. They've already played Kansas. I think they have BYU, Houston, and someone else left.
Do they not Kansas State?
I don't believe they don't have Kansas State left for Oklahoma when I checked earlier. Oklahoma State, listen to this, Dylan. They've already played Kansas State. They've already played Iowa State. And they've already played Oklahoma. They don't have to play Texas. the rest of this year. Oh, after this game, Oklahoma State has 3 new teams in the Big 12. They got BYU, Houston, and UCF. So realistically, the winner of this game has a very great opportunity to win out, get to 7-1 or 8-1 in conference play, and book a trip to Dallas. So not only is this the last Bedlam game of the year, or that we might ever have, how does Oklahoma respond after that loss to I don't know if their star linebacker is going to play or not. They clearly missed him last week in the second half when he got hurt. So there's so many implications in this game, and you just never know what's going to happen in Bedlam. So this Oklahoma State's my game of the week.
Yeah, that was one I had down. The other one I had was Washington USC.
Yeah,
and well, we'll talk about this one a little bit. This is an elimination game for the Trojans. They lost to Notre Dame. They should have lost. Could have lost to Cal. They could have lost to Arizona. The defense is nowhere to be found. It's one. There's questions. People are saying Caleb Williams shouldn't play the rest of the year. He's not going to win the Heisman. He's not going to win the national title. But they can still salvage this season. But I don't know if I trust their defense. But I actually think this matchup is favorable to USC because I don't like Washington's defense a whole heck of a lot either. I don't think they're that good. So I think USC is going to be able to go pound for pound with them. Are they going to be able to turn Michael Penix over? Are they able to get stops when they have to? I don't know. I still think Washington in the end is going to win out because I think their defense is going to be able to get a couple of stops, and I think they'll be able to run the ball and kind of keep it away, get a lead and keep it away from USC. But looking at the rest of USC's schedule here there's a good argument that they finish the year 7-5 because this week they go up to Oregon into Autzen and play the Ducks.
They're going to lose that game.
And then I think UCLA is just a bad matchup for them because the way UCLA runs the ball, Chip Kelly has figured out after his stints in the NFL that we have to play defense. So he's built a pretty solid defense down in Westwood. So there is an argument to be made that USC finishes the year 7-5 and Lincoln Riley is the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh my God! If the Las Vegas Raiders hire him, they are just setting themselves back up because it's Cliff Kingsbury 2.0.
Cliff Kingsbury is his offensive coordinator.
Correct. He will start off good. They will fall apart, and then there will be no leadership. There's no stability. You watch Cliff Kingsbury last year in Hard Knocks. He doesn't hold anyone accountable. There's no leadership for this practice. There's no culture. There's nothing. There's just nothing there. So that would be hilarious if the Las Vegas Raiders did that. I don't know. I think there's a chance Washington can win this game by two possessions. I think USC's defense is so bad, and Michael Penix is playing for a Heisman Trophy right now in a spot in the Pac-12 title game. I just feel like the wheels are kind of falling off this USC team this year. I guess I'm not sure. It's gonna be a whale of a game. I'm gonna have this and the Alabama and LSU game on 2 screens, since they're playing at the same time. So, that's gonna be a good game, and it's gonna be an interesting one. We'll say this if USC loses.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll that wraps up the FBS NFL talk here. But before we get to curveball of the week, which I have, Dakota Market Week, you gotta preview that. And this is a little bit of some unfamiliar territory for the Bison, as they have come in the last few years of where they've lost 4 straight Dakota Marker games, 5 in total. With the national championship game loss, South Dakota State is 11.5-point favorites. The last line I saw, they're by far and away the best team in college football this year. They do not have many weaknesses at all. This is a tall task for the Bison. Some keys to the game offensively. no turnovers. They cannot have any turnovers. They cannot turn the ball over in this game, which has cost them in previous matchups. Going back just as in the last two, for example, is the first game they had after they called Cam Miller for unsportsmanlike conduct. The next play, Cole Payton goes and throws an INT, and they just snowballs. And then the second game, both times when they had them, next time they had momentum, the defense goes and gets a stop. Offense is driving. Kobe Johnson fumbles the ball. South Dakota State goes down and scores. The rest is history. I think they're going to need to find something in the run game other than the quarterbacks. They got to find ways to for Barika Penu, Tamarick Williams, TK Marshall. They need to run the ball and be effective. They need to, control the clock. They need to go on one of those long 8-9 minute vintage Bison drives that has made NDSU what they've been the last 11 years. And when they get down into the red zone, because I do think they're going to be able to move the ball against South Dakota State, they can't settle for field goals. They gotta come away with punching it in the end zone. They got to get touchdowns. And then over on the defensive side, they need to force turnovers. In this win streak that South Dakota State's been on, do you know how many turnovers the Bison have forced in those games, Grant? Zero. They cannot. You can't do that against South Dakota State. You have to find ways to force some turnovers, get Mark Gronowski under pressure. They're going to be down Will Mostert, who blew his Achilles on the defensive line. Find somehow some way to make them one-dimensional and shut down the run, and see what Mark Gronowski's like as a drop-back passer. Because he hasn't been put in those tough spots a whole lot. The other thing is win first and second down, something they have not done in games they've lost. They didn't do it in the UND game. They didn't do it against South Dakota in that loss. And then going back to South Dakota State in the national title game, they could not get off the field on third down. That's something they have to do to even have a shot. Like I said, it's a tall task. Nobody thinks they're going to be able to win. But I think that's the most dangerous NDSU team, though, is a team where they are the underdog. Nobody believes they can win. Can they go into Brookings and get a win? It's going to be tough to say, and it's not an indictment of NDSU. I still think NDSU is a solid team, and they've got the work cut out for them even to make the playoffs this year. But if they lose this game, they're probably going to have to win their next two to make sure they solidify or not have to sweat out Select Sunday. But that's our NDSU-SDSU preview. Like I said, I'll be up in Belleville coaching in the semifinals, so I won't be able to do a recap of the game. Hopefully, be able to catch the end of it, and hopefully, it is a game by the time our game is over, so I can watch it and hopefully cheer on a Bison victory and get the Dakota marker back where it belongs in Fargo. So with that, we're gonna go over to Curveball of the Week, and I have this one, and I was kind of sitting here thinking about it, and I came up with this. Now, Grant, what is a fashion trend that you wish would become popular again?
Oh, dude, I think this is easy. We're coming to that time of the year. I want the big puffy starter jackets back in.
Which I think they are slowly making a comeback. They are. You're seeing them a little bit more now. I think if you go into like those, not so much in Dickinson per se, but I think where we go like up to the cities where you are, I think you're going to see it a lot more. You see a lot of the bomber jackets that have become a lot more popular.
Yes. But yeah, dude, it's that time of the year. It's getting cold outside. I want that big puffy coat on, that metal zipper, the oversized hood. You can't move in your car because the jacket is so big. You got your sweatshirt and your 4 layers on underneath it. It stops at your waist, so it doesn't go below your ass. So sure, your ass is cold, and it's halfway up your back when you're sitting in your car. But man, just if we could bring back those starter jackets, dude. I feel like we would be in a better place in society.
That's a good one. And man, when you started saying that, I really was sweating it out. Like, this guy is not going to take mine. he can't take mine, and you didn't,
Okay.
because what I'm saying, what we bring back is the Graufuts, the gray on gray, like this.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Gray on gray needs to make a comeback. It's comfortable. It seems like all the hoodies I have are gray.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and gray sweatpants, comfortable. And I don't know why people got away from it, and people they're idiots and shouldn't. And I'm probably guilty of it too, of listening too much to it.
Mhm.
But you know what? You can't put a price on comfort. And if Graufuts make you comfortable, I'm gonna wear it and I'm gonna keep rocking it. I'm just gonna roll with this all the way through until I'm dead.
Hey, dude, and on Monday, I thought the lines looked good on their gray and gray. The blue helmets I wasn't a fan of. But when they go the gray pants, gray shirt, and the gray helmet, that's actually a good look for them.
I agree. I do like that. I thought what Detroit should have done is they should have went back to like their early, like the 80s helmet, or like what they wore, the helmets they had when Barry Sanders was playing there. I like that. That was nice and clean. It didn't have the black outline. It was just blue and silver.
Yep. No, that's a good look for you. But I don't know. I just, as I'm mentioning the starter jacket, I'm being a little nostalgic here, and I'm thinking about how sick would that Charlotte Hornets, old school, starter jacket be? Like that is just the all-time GOAT in terms of jackets, if you ask me.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Ooh, and it looks like the Rangers have kind of opened it up a little bit here as we put a bow on the show here. Jonah Heim has just singled to center field where Nathan Lowe scores, and he advanced to third. Heim did, and then Young scored as well because there looks like there was a throwing error on Alec Thomas. So 3-0, and we're the Diamondbacks are going to have their work cut out for them if they want to see this series go back to Houston. And if Houston or Texas, Dallas, excuse me. And you know what's crazy is if the Rangers are able to hold this lead, they will go the entire playoffs without losing a game on the road.
That's what, 10-0?
Yep, 10-0.
That's incredible.
Because, yeah, no,
2, 2, 3, 3.
2, 3, 4. So 9, and then 3, 12. It'd be 12-0 on the road.
Well, no, it'd be 2 because they, the series against the Rays, they won 2 there.
Yep.
They won their 2 in Baltimore, and then against Houston game.
Oh yeah.
6. Yeah, 3 against Houston. So we're at 7, and then these 3 in Arizona would get you to 10.
Yeah. Incredible. So that's our math on the air. That's a good way to end the show. We'll have the segments of the show out on Friday. We'll be back next week for episode 103. Check us out on all of our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, 3GTV Podcast, or the Three Guys Talking Ball Podcast. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe there. We'll be posting segments of the show, recaps, all the good stuff here. Keep that content up and going. And with that, we'll talk to you next time.